Hello, and welcome to the Rising Leaders of Color information session. My name is Big Raksak Gongseng, TCG's Lead of Grantmaking and Global Programs. I would like to acknowledge that although I am not currently on Turtle Island, I am benefiting from my workplace in Manhattan, colonially known as Manhattan, New York. Before we get started, we would like to take a moment to offer our respects to the many lands on which we gather, and to honor the traditional stewards of these lands. While land acknowledgement is a positive first step, it is also important to go beyond that. Perhaps by asking yourself, how are you using your privilege to support Indigenous people and communities? And how are you giving back to the land that you are on? One way we are working to model this at TCG is through our Native theater community engagement work and our grants to Native theaters. TCG is administering the Rising Leaders of Color program with support from Walt Disney Imagineering. This recording will last about 30 minutes. It is designed to provide you with an overview of the Rising Leaders of Color program and to help you prepare your application. If you have any questions, please email us at rgongseng@tcg.org as shown on the screen, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. We understand that many of you may be applying for a TCG program for the first time, and we will do our best to demystify and clarify the process. We are working to make applying for this program as streamlined as possible with a quick turnaround. A quick note that we are using the term BIPOC for solidarity purposes, representing a multiplicity of racial, ethnic, and cultural groups. We acknowledge that the term BIPOC is imperfect and not universally embraced by many who identify as people of color and or people of the global majority. And that language is in a constant state of reimagination and redefinition. For reference, Black, Indigenous, and people of color represent over 80% of the global population. It is possible that during this program period, the language may shift again. You may not know about TCG's work, and we are going to start by talking about TCG's mission and values as it relates to this program. To give you some background first about TCG, in 2021, TCG celebrated our 60th anniversary and went through a year-long strategic planning process. As a result, we crafted a reframed mission, and that is to lead for a just and thriving theater ecology. With that, we have a commitment to centering Black, Indigenous, and people of color in our program services and partnerships. That although TCG has already had a long history of nurturing, supporting, and uplifting BIPOC theater artists and leaders and BITOC. Since its founding in 1961, TCG's constituency has grown from a handful of groundbreaking theaters to over 750 member theaters and affiliate organizations, and also over 3,000 individual members. TCG reaches over 1 million students, audience members, and theater professionals each year through its programs and services. You can read more about membership benefits and services on our website under the membership tab on our website at tcg.org. Now, the core elements of our programs and services are networking and knowledge building. And that includes our conferences and events, such as our national conference that take place every 2 years. The last one happened in Chicago in June 2024. We also do surveys and research. We did impact of COVID on our field research, and also we hosted a town hall called Crisis and Chrysalis Town Hall back in 2023. In grant-making world, in addition to this program, we also administer Fox Foundation Resident Actor Fellowships. We also have Funds for the Dolls program, the Thrive programs, Willa Kim Costume Design Scholarship Program. For publishing, you may not know that American Theater Magazine is a TCG publication and is published online and also in print quarterly with special issues and features. TCG is the largest not-for-profit publisher in the US, and our authors have been honored with 21 Pulitzer Prizes, as well as Tony Awards, the Nobel Prize for Literature, plus countless Obies, Drama Desk Awards, and other national and international prizes. The authors include Michael R. Jackson, Heidi Schreck, Jeremy O. Harris, The Kilroy's List, Tony Kushner, and more. Our publishing is unique in that we promise to publish the full body of work of our writers and also keep the publication in print in perpetuity. As for national and global leadership and advocacy, TCG works with our sister service organizations and co-founded the Performing Arts Alliance, or PAA, which advocates for the arts on a national level. TCG is also the home of the U.S. Center for the International Theater Institute, and together with the Laboratory for Global Performance and Politics, we administer ITI-US, and our activities include World Theater Day, which is celebrated every year on March 27th. I hope this gives you a good picture of what TCG does. And now let's talk about this program. Since the COVID pandemic in 2020, theater has been on and off. And because of all this, the 2020 and 2021 rounds of this RLC program activities were online. We then resumed in-person program activities with some online programming for the 2022 round, which was focused on leaders based in Pittsburgh. Then in the 2023 round, it was a national cohort of journalists and critics of color from different cities participating in a mix of in-person and online activities. In 2024, that round, we centered on leaders based in Chicago. Similar to the 2023 round, the 2025 Rising Leaders of Color program will form a national cohort of 3 exceptionally talented early career journalists and critics of color who are committed to uplifting the stories of BIPOC and BITOC, also upholding equitable practices in the US theater field, and who demonstrate the potential to impact the theater field in a positive way. TCG believes that leadership is not based on position. Leaders are in all areas, including journalists and critics as well as those working in the artistic, administrative, educational, production areas of the theater. Oftentimes, journalists and critics do not see themselves as leaders. However, BIPOC journalists and critics are the key to unlocking meaning in work created by BIPOC theater makers that may not be seen otherwise. A robust dialogue between BIPOC critics and BIPOC theater makers generates a more vibrant theater ecosystem where BIPOC audiences can see the truths, complexities, and questions voiced. Equally valuable is the role of BIPOC journalists and critics play to uncover aesthetic, cultural, and political meaning in work created by non-BIPOC cultures. Since 2016, Theater Communications Group's Rising Leaders of Color program has nurtured, supported, and uplifted 64 Black, Indigenous, Asian American, Pacific Islander, Latine, Southwest Asian, North African, and mixed race early career leaders from across the country. The RLC program has its curriculum, and it is a 3-legged stool, a combination of self-reflection and group work, individual coaching, and workshops. RLC supports participants through connecting you to people who can help you learn more about the field and leadership, both peers and other intergenerational leaders, developing your writing and leadership skills, and also identifying ways to navigate through your career as a BIPOC leader. All of TCG grant programs are living and breathing programs, meaning that we are constantly evaluating their impact on the field and we make course adjustments whenever necessary, particularly as our field is emerging. ROC is created for those in early stages of their career for whom participation would accelerate their professional development and knowledge of the theater field. Journalists and critics who have already had significant national recognition and participated in similar programs will probably be beyond the scope of this program. At the same time, those who are not yet at a point in their career to take full advantage of this level of professional development will generally not be competitive. In addition to those currently work as writers, RLC also encourages applicants who may not formally identify themselves as a journalist and or critic. It is not necessary for applicants to have had paid experience as a journalist and or critic, or to even have written work that has been included in a traditional publication. We believe that writers in all formats can be cultural mirrors, whether it be short form, like social media and social networking, spoken word, or poetry, as well as long form, like blogs, podcasts, articles, op-ed, essays, etc. Applicants must be at least 21 years old by the program orientation on May 27, 2025. They also must be based in the US and or the US territories. That includes the American Samoa, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands. They must be able to receive taxable income in the US regardless of their citizenship status. They also must self-identify as Black, Indigenous, and or people of color. Applicants who are a full-time student at a university or conservatory training program during the program period will generally not be competitive. It is worth noting that we define theater in the broadest terms, including dramatic theater, music theater, physical theater, object theater, and so on. TCG uses a peer panel process. For this program, it will be an independent panel of journalists or critics and other theater leaders who are working professionals and knowledgeable about the field of theater. Applications, including the writing samples, will be reviewed based on the criteria listed on the slide. And those are talent and skills, maturity, flexibility, and ability to adapt to change, curiosity about the role of journalists and critics in today's cultural landscape, commitment to examining and uplifting theater making, commitment to racial equity and equity, diversity, and inclusion in their work, degree to which the program will impact the participant, and last but not least, potential for positive impact on the theater field. Note that the selection process is in 2 stages, and there will be finalist interviews. And do not get caught up in grant speak or writing what you think we want to hear. Just try to let your personal voices come through. The panelists will likely not know you or your work. It is important for them to then have a sense of your view of the theater field and your place in it as a change maker. As for the timeline, application deadline is, of course, firm. It is on Friday, March 7, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please note the time zone. Also important, participating in the RLC program is a professional commitment. Scheduled program activities are dates participants must be available, all happening in real time and not recorded for later viewing. The RLC 25 selection process are done in stages. So in stage 1, you will only need to submit your info and your recommender's information. No need to actually submit a recommendation yet in stage 1. You must also upload a resume, CV, or bio of no more than 2 pages on our application portal. This will help the selection panel to have a sense of your background and work experience. Keep in mind that the program is looking for writers, not resumes. You must also upload 2 work samples. They can be written or video or audio, all combined into one file. The samples must demonstrate your approach, style, and strengths. These samples could include published clips, online pieces, or a 250-word essay with your view of the current state of theater. The selection panel is especially interested in hearing your unique perspective. If you're advancing to stage 2, then you will be asked to then submit 3 additional narrative questions. You will submit them each with a word limit varying from 250 to 300 words. And you may choose to submit your responses in different formats. It can be either audio, video, or text. You will be asked to also submit 1 recommendation. Applicants who progress to the next round must have 1 recommendation submitted to TCG on their behalf. The recommender should be familiar with your work and must be available to submit the recommendation directly to TCG via the portal. For the full timeline, please refer to our website. Once the program starts, the first program activity will be a 2-part orientation on Tuesday, May 27 and Wednesday, May 28, 2025. Participants must be available to attend the National Critics Institute at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center on June 25th to July 6th, 2025. There will be additional professional development activities afterwards from July to October 2025 and February to June 2026. Please review the program information and guidelines on our website and apply now if this program is a good fit for you. And please do not hesitate to email us if you have any questions. The email is on the screen. We hope that this has been helpful for you. Thank you so much.